Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing the compatibility chart between Travis Alexander and Jodi Arias. And I'm sure that you all know what happened between these two. So I'm going to get started. His Juno and Lovus conjuncts her ascendant by 2 degrees. And this is a very important angle in a synastry chart between two people because you will receive those energies from the other person. So in this case, his Juno, that has to do with marriage, and Lovus conjuncts her ascendant. Now, he did say that he was going to marry her, but in this case, he didn't, and I'm going to tell you why. And this is also a good indication of why you should be plugging in multiple asteroids and not just the major loved ones, because if you neglect to plug in a lot of asteroids, you might miss important parts of the synastry chart and the energies that go along with it. So Lovus holding hands with Juno, that means that there was a lot of sex and passion in this relationship because that's the energy that Lovus represents. Now, there wasn't a marriage because he broke the rules. He was a Mormon, and you're not supposed to have sex before marriage. So in this instance, according to him, I think that why would he get married to her? They're already having sex, and this goes back to that popular saying, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? Now, his Neptune conjuncts her Eros, 0 degrees. And Eros has to do with eroticism. So his vision was clouded by her and this energy because he saw her for the eroticism that she could give him. And Neptune is in the 8th house on both sides of their natal chart. Her Neptune is in her 8th house, his Neptune is in his 8th house, and it overlays into each other's. So this fogs up the primal passions between these two. And sexual things got buried beneath the surface or hidden in dark ways because Neptune rules the 12th house, which that house represents things that are hidden and secrets, and Pluto rules the 8th house, which is the house of sex and death. Now, they were both fogged up about each other because his Neptune opposes her Venus, and her Venus opposes his Neptune. So there's this double whammy here. And they're both in a state of idealization about the seemingly perfect other person. But Neptune opposing Venus in a synastry chart, that is classic for the frog is not a prince, or the princess is really a witch. So both of them thought that the other was like a perfect, ideal partner for them, especially on her part, because in her natal chart, Venus is opposing her Neptune, and she has this very over idealized or unreal expectation of what love should be. Now, when she woke up from that dreamy Neptune fog, and eventually everyone does, all hell broke loose because her Mars conjuncts her Saturn natally. And Saturn is, the energies are, Saturn represses or squelches or puts a chilling effect on the anger because Mars is a war planet. So eventually this is just like a volcano waiting to explode. And it did, because also in their synastry chart, we have another double whammy. His Mars squares her Jupiter, and her Jupiter squares his Mars. So there is a guaranteed tension that's just going to erupt, because Mars squaring Jupiter has the energies of rash, impulsive actions, and Mars is, like I said, the war planet. Now, his Salicea trines her Lilith, and her Salicea trines his Lilith by 2 degrees. More double whammies. Salicea has the energy of crude and perverse sexual behaviors, especially with this, like I said, double whammy, because it's a trine, and the trines are like cheerleaders, and the energy flows very easily. And also, there's this would also coincides with other Pluto aspects as well. Specifically, another double whammy. I don't think I've ever seen such double whammies in one chart before. His Venus trines her Pluto, and her Pluto trines his Venus at 4 degrees. And this has to do with primal lust and passion. And there are other Pluto aspects as well. But this Neptunian Plutonian relationship is so much filled with the energies of hostility and a huge potential of explosion, like I just explained, with Mars squaring Jupiter and her Saturn conjuncting her Mars natally. And there's other things as well that I will also go over. His Pluto, Cirrus, and Jodi, her name, PNA, personal name asteroid, conjuncts her Lilith 1 degree. He has a powerful effect, or had a powerful effect on her sexually, because Pluto conjuncting Lilith, that has to do with a dominant, obsessive energy sexually. And that ties into the Salacea trining Lilith on both sides. And since Pluto is holding hands with Cirrus, so he loved having sex with her, and Jodi is also holding hands with Pluto and Cirrus. So that is like a huge validation of the sexual and the passion that they had with each other. But it was dangerous and dark, and this is validation for the aspects that I just explained. But there's also more. Well, he also said that he wanted to tie her to a tree and sodomize her. That was played in the sex tape in court. So, like I said before, validation, and it goes back to the Salacea trining Lilith and coincides with this Pluto conjuncting her Lilith. See how this is all starting to tie in together? It's just horrific. And I mean, she said that he was abusive towards her. And looking at the Synastry chart, I don't think that she was lying. I'm not saying that she should have murdered him and the way it happened. Women are abused all the time, and they don't call the police, and they don't kill their significant other. Sometimes they do, but like I said, I don't agree with what happened, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think that she was lying. Her Mars conjuncts his blow, 1 degree. I've seen this multiple times. Mars is a war planet, and the asteroid blow has to do with physical fighting. Also, her Jupiter is squaring his Xanthopy and his point of fortune by 2 degrees. Xanthopy has to do with domestic abuse and physical abuse. And since her Jupiter is squaring Xanthopy, Jupiter's the largest planet in the solar system, and it will exacerbate that energy. And since it's a square, there was a tension there, and it happened behind the scenes, and then all of a sudden it just blew up into physical abuse. I don't know if he was abusing her right before she killed him, because that's what she's claiming. But I do know, from what the chart is telling me, that there was physical abuse. And also, his Xanthopy is conjuncting his point of fortune. And the point of fortune looks like a circle with a cross in the middle, and it's like a mini Jupiter. So it magnifies the energies of whatever it touches. And like I said before, Mars is involved here, the war planet. Her Jupiter squaring his Xanthopy. it also squares his Mars, like I said before. So again, huge blow-ups. Also, her nemesis conjuncts his point of fortune, 2 degrees, in the 7th house, and that is betrayal by her, and she became his enemy, and her Medea conjuncts her Ixion, 0 degrees natally, and that means revenge through murder. That's in her natal chart, and 0 degrees is the tightest orb. All right, I'm going to go forward. There's a lot more here. His Hermione, Mars, conjuncts her moon, opposed by his Neptune. Hermione is like a spellbinding effect, like Hermione from the Harry Potter movie. And Mars powered fire to this, and it's conjuncting her moon. So he had a very spellbinding effect on her. His Hypnos conjuncts her Venus, 0 degrees, and also conjuncts her Ceres, the love planet, by 2 degrees, also opposed by his Neptune. So we're going back to the Neptune, foggy illusion, deception, not seeing things clearly, and Hypnos has to do with hypnotic effect. She was hypnotized by him. And since it's conjuncting her Venus, the love planet, and Ceres, she thought that she loved him. She was like, he's the right guy for me. But, Neptune is involved here on multiple levels. So this is just one big cocktail for disaster and illusion. His Pholus conjuncts her Caputo, 1 degree. And Pholus is the asteroid that has to do with an explosion. Conjuncting her Caputo, this goes back to the Pluto energies. Caputo has to do with obsession and infatuation. Explosive infatuation here because of Pholus conjuncting her Caputo. Caputo can also have to do with like a sweet talking sort of ladies' man, but the energies of Caputo also indicate, like I said, obsessive obsessive energies and infatuation. So she not only was infatuated with him, she also was unrealistic about the expectations, and she was underneath the spell. Her Sedna, prey, chaos, and gun conjuncts his ascendant by 1 degree. So we have Sedna, betrayal, separation through stalking, because the prey asteroid, she preyed on him, she was stalking him, and she brought a lot of chaos into this relationship, and she was holding a gun. She pointed a gun, she shot him, and it's conjuncting his ascendant by 1 degree. So again, all these energies came into the relationship by her because it's conjuncting a very important angle in the Synastry chart, and this is all at 1 degree. So that's very tight. Her Melpomene, Pluto, vertex conjuncts his north node, 1 degree. Here comes Pluto again. Pluto conjuncting the north node, that theme of the relationship, primal passion and power, and her vertex is conjuncting his north node as well, and it has to do with fate. And Melpomene holding hands with Pluto, tragedy. This was a tragic relationship due to power struggles and primal passion, and didn't end well, obviously. Now, her Jodi, PNA, Pollux, Nessus, Sun and Mercury conjuncts his IC, 2 degrees. Whatever conjuncts your IC from the other person, this will happen behind the scenes. It will be hidden because the 4th house is on the cusp of the IC is on the cusp of the 4th house, which rules the home and the family, and it opposes the midheaven. Now, Jodi is holding hands with Pollux, and Pollux it's the evil fixed star, and it can mean that there will be violent death. And Nessus has to do with abuse. So she brought him a violent death through abuse, and her Sun in Mercury is also conjuncting his IC. So there's this, indication of almost like a mental breakdown, because in her natal chart, Sun is conjuncting her Mercury by 4 degrees. That's a combust, and it's at the tail end. So when you have the Sun and the Mercury this close in proximity towards each other, the Sun, the solar energy, can have a very heated effect on the mental processes. Not all of the time, but it can result in like a breakdown of energies, thinking, and due to the rest of her natal chart, specifically, like I said before, her Saturn conjuncting Mars, this is how this came into play. It was like all of a sudden just got plugged in and blew up like a volcano. Now, his Visya conjuncts her IC, 1 degree. And this ties back into the fact that, like I said before, with the abuse, Visya has to do with viciousness and spitefulness. And since it's conjuncting her IC, abuse by him towards her. I know there's probably people that are going to get mad at me for saying that, but I'm just telling you what the chart what the charts is telling me. It's all written right here, and I'm just going along and revealing everything that's here. Her Sun conjuncts his prey, 3 degrees. So he preyed on her sexually because his Pluto is squaring her Sun. And Pluto has to do with sex and the underworld and darkness. So they preyed on each other, and just a very dark relationship that they couldn't even see clearly what was really going on. And she did not have a handle on her emotions when it came to this whole situation because of Neptune and Pluto and all the other aspects in her natal chart. Like I said, her Atropos, Messalina, Leto conjuncts his Sun, 2 degrees. Very important luminary. Atropos has to do with the cutter. In Greek mythology, Atropos determined the life and death of someone, and they used scissors. And when it was time for the life energy to end, they cut the cord. So her Atropos, Messalina has to do with, again, ties back to the sexual manipulation and spitefulness. And Leto has to do with murder. And this is conjuncting his Sun by 2 degrees. So there's indication right here that she's guilty. So that's all I have. I went over their composite chart really quick to see if there was anything in their composite chart that would tie into the Synastry, and I did find some interesting things. In the composite chart, Finale is conjuncting the North Node, 3 degrees, and Finale is endings. So the theme of that whole relationship is just a complete ending, and due to death, because Ixion is conjuncting Uranus and Hopi in the 7th house. The 7th house rules committed relationships. Ixion has to do with death. Uranus is a sudden upheaval, and it's holding hands with Hopi, and that has to do with an ambush with knives. Dejanira is conjuncting Ixion and the Descendant by 2 degrees. And Dejanira has to do with victimhood. So holding hands with Ixion, victimhood through murder. Also in the composite chart, Venus is opposing Neptune, 2 degrees. This all goes back to the Synastry chart again. There's a huge over-idealization of the relationship between the two of them. And Neptune is in the 8th house. I've already explained that energy in that house. It's ruled naturally by Pluto. So things that are hidden, darkness, over-idealization. Mars is conjuncting Jupiter in the composite chart by 1 degree. So in the Synastry chart, Mars is squaring Jupiter, double whammy. In the composite chart, Mars is conjuncting Jupiter. So an explosion of war and 1 degree is tight. Also in the composite chart, Jodi is conjuncting the asteroid Nemesis and Atropos, 2 degrees. That translates into death by cutting, and she became an enemy. So this is a really good example of the reason why I looked at this composite chart, because many people have said to me, do you do composite charts? And I do, but you can't have this huge expectation that the composite chart is going to become something better than the Synastry chart. It usually validates the Synastry chart, just in different ways. So see how that ties in to the Synastry chart. And when you're doing a composite chart, the orbs have to be very tight, 3 degrees or less in a composite. And you should really pay attention to the personal planets mostly, not the outer planets, unless the outer planets are making an aspect to the personal planets, specifically Sun, Moon, Venus, and Mars and Mercury. That's important, the most important actually, because you don't want to get too muddled. So that's all I have, and I hope you enjoyed this interpretation, and I will be back shortly with other Synastry charts. So hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop, and have a nice day.